shot you just saw just now is, there's some kind of story behind that shot, which is, it's a card, it's a playing card stuck to the roof of the VPW studio here. And it goes back 5 or 6 years to the early days of Magic Mike, otherwise known as Mike Likey, otherwise known as Magic Mike. He's a guy, sometimes people will stop me on the street and say, hey, I know you, you're Magic Mike. I say, no, completely different show. Magic Mike's that short little guy. No, Magic Mike is one of our esteemed colleagues here at VPW, and he does have a striking resemblance to yours truly. But how that card got stuck on the ceiling, it's some kind of trick he was doing where there was a rubber band and there was a piece of gum involved, and the card goes up, but it doesn't come down. That's all I know about it. How long is that, JD, that's been there?
88, 87.
Oh, it's a good 5 years then, eh? Yeah. And, okay, now, here we are again, and we're back on TV, and what a thrill it is to be on television. And, you know, sometimes I ask a guy, like a musician friend or something, you know, you want to come down and be on the show. And it turns out not everyone has a burning desire to be on television, believe it or not. For example, as you're sitting there in your living room right now, and you're thinking, if I asked you to come on my show, okay, I'm assuming that everyone wants to be on TV, but not everyone does want to be on TV. You're saying, no way I'd come on TV, if you're like 3/4 of the population. But here we are. For us, it's us guys up here, it's a big thrill. And we're gonna start off today's show with a topic from our perennial guest mathematician, Mr. Barsby. That's John Barsby from St. John's Ravenscourt. And I understand, John, that you finished marking your exams for this year.
Yes, that's right. The school year has finally come to an end.
Are you going to tell us how many students passed and how many of them are going to be back with you next year?
Oh, I think they all did pretty well.
I bet they did.
Particularly the students in my small calculus class, the ones who say to me week after week, talk about us when you get on Math with Marty. They all did well.
Well, now we should give you that magic mirror, and you should say, I see Billy, and I see...
Right.
We used to do that? That was a romper room, eh? Now,
Jug Paul and Sean and Tim and Chris, etc.
They'd all come on if you asked them, wouldn't they?
Oh, I'm sure they would. In fact, they would be dying to do it.
They're part of like the 20...
And Jonathan, you met Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, I remember him, yeah.
Right.
Good-looking guy. Like a winner. Like some of the students, some guys in high school, they have like a positive look and they look like they're going places. You think, geez, I wish I was 18 again, you know? But now today I understand the topic is one which, you know, as a math topic, speaks to the whole history of human civilizations. I mean, whether as a mathematical landmark or what have you, as a landmark in the progress of human thought. It's a story worth telling, and you know, I should say it's the kind of story that I tend to assume everyone's heard this. It's one reason I'm always doing these idiotic hard topics. But I'm sure that this will be an enlightenment to our viewers.
The math in this is very simple. I'll entitle it How Eratosthenes, if I can pronounce his name correctly, measured the Earth. Maybe I should spell it, then you will know who he is, I imagine. Now, you might be able to correct me on this because I'm guessing a bit, but I think he probably spelled his name something like this.
Yeah.
Does that look as if it says Eratosthenes?
That's excellent, and because, you know, as mathematicians, you learn all those Greek letters. And
well, that's right. It's nice to string them out into a word, even though I'm just spelling it phonetically. But it wouldn't surprise me if, and this, of course, is an R.
Yeah, the P is an R in Greek.
Right.
Rho. Yeah.
That's right. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly how he spelled
now,
his
I know
name.
the small E is the small epsilon, but I don't know the big E.
Oh,
Is
the
that the big
capital epsilon is just like an E in
E.
the Latin alphabet, right? And that's a capital tau and so on.
And capital alpha looks like RA?
That's right, exactly.
Write it in small letters, just to show you can do it. You look real Greek in small letters.
Yeah.
Tau, yeah.
Um,
Sigma, yeah. Theta.
Theta.
Epsilon. Nu, I know how to do nu.
Nu
Yeah.
is a U, is a long tail, isn't it?
Sort of like something like that. It's sort
That's
of
pretty good,
U-shaped.
yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of mu.
Yeah, mu has a longer tail.
So, anyway, Eratosthenes.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, now Eratosthenes lived in about the 3rd century BC, and he was the first person to make an accurate measurement of the circumference of the Earth. A measurement that is amazingly accurate for so far back into the ancient world. The Greeks knew that the Earth was spherical. They had many reasons for having come to that conclusion. So it was no breakthrough for him to realize that there was a circumference. But he thought for a long time about how he might actually measure it. And he knew one fact that he thought would be a good starting point. He knew that on the summer solstice, that vertical objects in a town on the Nile called Aswan cast no shadows at all, that the sun was directly overhead, and that in fact the bottom of deep wells was illuminated. So he was pretty sure that that would be a good reference point. And he also knew that north of Aswan in Alexandria, that there was never a day in the year where objects were shadowless. So he worked from there. And on the 21st of June, if this was Aswan on the equator, there's a vertical object, and the sun's rays, which I'll put in orange, the sun's rays we can think of as coming in parallel, and there's our vertical object casting no shadow. Now I'll have to exaggerate the scale a little bit, but let's go north to Alexandria. And there, the sun's rays will make a shadow, which he measured. If this is the shadow, he was able to measure that angle right there, the angle between the tip of the shadow and the object, and his measurements were astonishingly accurate. He measured that as 7 degrees and 14 minutes. Now 7 degrees and 12 minutes would be exactly 1/50th of the circumference of a circle. So at 7 degrees and 14 minutes, it's just a tiny bit more than 1/50th of the circumference of a circle. And then on a diagram similar to this one, he just extended that line and this line to the center of the Earth. And any high school student knows that interior alternate angles are equal to parallel lines in a transversal. So he knew that the angle at the center of the Earth would also be 7 degrees and 14 minutes, or 1/50th of a complete rotation. 360 degrees, 7 degrees, 14 minutes is within 2 minutes of being 1/50th of a complete rotation. So all he then had to do was take the distance between Aswan and Alexandria and multiply by 50. Now you would think at this stage that Eratosthenes had done the really hard part, and in fact he's done the part that impresses us tremendously with the accuracy. But if you think back for a period that's more than 2,000 years ago, to him, this was an easy measurement. He just needed an extremely accurate protractor and a lot of care and careful, meticulous work, which he was capable of doing. But measuring the distance between Aswan and Alexandria with any degree of accuracy with the equipment available 2,200 years ago was a big task. So he resorted to a method that we associate more these days with social scientists or politicians. He used the interview. He approached any camel driver he could find who had made the trip from Aswan to Alexandria, and he asked two questions of these camel drivers. How many days does it take? And how far does a camel go in a day? And the general results is that it took, I think it was just a little less than 50 days, and that the distance a camel could travel in a day was just slightly over 100 stadia, the stadium being the unit of measurement that the Greeks used for long distances. So from that he was able to conclude that this was 5,000 stadia. And then he just had to multiply that by 50, and he got that the circumference of the Earth was 25,000 stadia. Now, to see how accurate he is, we have to be able to convert from stadia into units of measurement that we're more familiar with. And there's a bit of a controversy about this because the Greeks didn't have a well-established standard. I mean, we have that historic meter stick in a museum in Paris somewhere. The Greeks didn't have one particular stadium that was the absolute and utter standard for the distance. So there's a bit of controversy over exactly how close he is. But it was very close, because one common estimate for the length of a stadium has him just 2% under what we know today to be the right figure. Another estimate for a stadium has him about 15% over. But the first estimate is believed to be the more accurate or the more likely one. In which case, if I do this in miles, I should have looked this up in meters, but the places where I was getting some of this information had it in miles, and I thought Math with Marty may not have gone metric yet. Math with Marty, I know, is very eclectic in its units. So if we can use stadia and miles today, that will be okay. But the circumference of the Earth is supposed to be 24,900 miles. And using one very common conversion for the stadium, he got 24,662 miles, which is amazingly accurate for something done so many years ago. And that's my little bit of mathematical geography for your show, Marty, the story of how Eratosthenes measured the Earth.
Well, John, that's a fantastic story.